I want to go back to what you said. You mentioned for a second there, of course, they have to have things in place if they have that, that anticipation of what the kid needs to do for the kid's needs. I know that your character, like, and natural virtues and natural abilities, um, up against mine, are that for you are extremely clear naturally. You have an organized brain. My brain is like mushed spaghetti, and it's great. And I'm very, there's a lot of greatness to that. But I've always been amazed with how incredibly smooth your application of stand 3 is. Stand 3, for those of you that don't know, there's stand 1, which is not letting the negative define the relationship, not letting the negative define the person, not letting things be negative, seeing things differently, so that we're looking at the heart and the energy and the root of the person as a beautiful being, looking past the behavior, right? And seeing the greatness that's maybe even motivating that very negative behavior, but always, always, always believing in that greatness, like you said. And then the stand 2 of showing up for, watering, celebrating, appreciating, growing in that inner wealth and that greatness, which is kind of the meat and the juice of the nurtured heart. That's like where the work is. And then the stand 3 is like the framework for stand 1 and stand 2 to thrive in, where there's clarity of everything, clarity of expectation, clarity of process, clarity of consequence, clarity of expectations. Did I say that already? Clarity of what we want, of what we mean, honesty, clear communication. And like, you have always been like a razor sharp, clear person with like how you say things, like just, so anyway, I want people, how have you figured out how to balance this unceasing, relentless belief in children's greatness and be 100% clear? Like, I feel like that is your superpower, and I want everyone to hear about that.
Yeah. I remember before the Nurtured Heart approach, I was once in a park with mom, and I was telling my children something, and I was giving them the context, and I was giving them a framework and giving them the rules. And the mother looked at me and she was like, she was critical. She said something to the extent of, you're being too, I don't know if it was controlling or too on top, too, like, just let your kid be. And I remember I said, it's not fair. It's not fair to the child, because I think it was something revolving around when we were going to leave. We're going to be leaving in a few minutes, and you can do this and this and this. And remember, if we leave right away, we get to go to the park again. And we're, something, talking the kid through an upcoming expectation. And she didn't like it. She was like, I don't know what rubbed her the wrong way, but she was like, and then it's very funny because a few minutes later she left and her kid threw such a tantrum. But I remember I told her, I said, it's not fair. I said, I know what to expect. I know what my expectations are. At the end of the day, I am bringing my child to the park. And if it will be a miserable experience, I'm very much less likely going to bring my child to the park tomorrow. So I want my child to know, exactly what the expectations are, so that they could have the benefits of having a mother who can bring them to the park easily, and not a mother who's going to sit on the couch at home and say, oh man, it'll be miserable bringing them to the park. I'm just not going to put myself through that. And we stay at home. I want them to have, and that's just knowing myself. Every parent has a different threshold for, some parents really don't mind arguing with their children about leaving the park day in and day out. It's totally fine. And if that's okay, then every parent has to just know what works for them. So I remember told this, this is what I told her, and I don't remember what she said. But that has always, this video game theory, at the end of the day, there is, what I love about Nurtured Heart is you're not trying to control kids, but you are controlling yourself. You are thinking about how you're going to respond, how you're going to be, what's your video game? What's my video game in my relationship with the children? So that's something that has always been very clear to me, and only got clearer with the Nurtured Heart approach. I remember I struggled a lot with the reset, because the reset essentially was, you say reset and the child has a space to reset, which is a very, very positive thing. However, specifically in a classroom situation or a group setting, I struggled with it because, to have the luxury of giving the child space to reset, a lot of times I felt that conflicted the safety for everyone else. And I'm not even talking about safety of like a kid running in the street or turning on a fire, the emotional safety of others. If a child was bullying another person, another child, to just say reset, which I once tried. And I'm embarrassed to say this, but it only happened once. And there was a child bullying another child, and I said reset, and I turned off my energy, and the child continued bullying the other child. And I remember I was just shocked at what I had allowed to happen, even for another few minutes. It was just another few minutes until I said, okay, this is not okay. But to really be clear on what your safety is. So every teacher has to know what their safety is, what they need to stay calm and regulated, first of all, for themselves, to be clear what they need. And then, of course, to be tuned into the safety of the children, physical and emotional. So if a child is going to disrupt a group setting in a big way, it's not an emotionally safe. Sometimes it's not even physically safe if they're going to throw a chair or whatever. But many times it's not even emotionally safe for the other children, because the teacher is not a robot. And the teacher is trying to give a lesson. If a child is going to be consistently disruptive, and there are children who do that, they need such an intense level of relationship that they will spend the entire 15 minutes of a circle time really actively seeking the relationship from a teacher in the wrong way. It's not fair to the other children. So I remember I felt like I needed to have, there was reset, but then what else for everyone's safety and the teacher's functionality, the teacher's safety. At the end of the day, they say happy wife, happy life, happy teacher, happy class. At the end of the day, a teacher does have to know that she has something in place that she could just control for herself, to know that she's in a space of calm. Whatever comes her way, she can always see the child is great, and always, keep with stands 1 and stands 2. And that comes with a really great stand 3. So
if
I
I can
finally,
interject
yeah,
that, like, what I hear you saying in like nurtured heart words is like reset is like, when we're in reset, when the kid's in reset or I'm in reset, we're doing what we need to do to get back to greatness. And
absolutely.
sometimes more needs to get done to get back to greatness. When there's a safety concern, where there's a stuckness in behavior, or a dysregulation, an escalation that is out of control. There's that, what needs to get done to get back to greatness. So it's like, we're going to reset. And then what's the clarity? Again, you're so good at clarity. Like, what's the clarity of what we're going to do during the reset to get us back to greatness? Because where the hiccup is of negativity of stand 1 with the reset is when the reset's not working because they're not listening. So we need them to listen, and that need to listen comes back to that control and to that negativity and to that trying to really punitive, where it's like, I need to teach them a lesson. I need to make them wake up and smell the coffee. I need them to get it, that it's not okay what they're doing and they have to stop. But if I have absolute clarity of how we are operating during the reset so that we're all safe and okay, like you said, physically and emotionally, I can wait it out with completely smooth energy, knowing and trusting myself and the child that we will all come around to greatness again, but we all know what to do. And that clarity frees me up so that I don't have to get energetically shaming, controlling, and negative. Anyway, just brilliant. So tell us your clarity.
Yes, and that was the giant shift of Nurtured Heart, where I believe most schools probably have some kind of system in place for when there's this happening, when there's that happening. First, we have step 1 and step 2 and step 3. But I think those steps, even when schools are saying those steps are not intended to be punishment, they're just intended for the calm and the structure of the classroom. Without the Nurtured Heart approach, before the Nurtured Heart approach, at the end of the day, a teacher's a human being, and I would get aggravated. I did step 1, I did step 2, and my aggravation is increasing. And it is intended to control these behaviors and to change the child's behaviors. Now the foundation is completely different. It's completely just going through video game steps, the steps of the video game to just get back to greatness. And each moment of those steps is an opportunity for greatness. And the child is never, ever, ever looked at in any way as bad or, not good. Just as a child in relationship, seeking relationship. And how could we make this work where everyone is great and celebrated? So the foundation is completely different. It's not like an escalation of steps, an escalation of emotions, things getting worse, getting the kid back into control. Completely not. It was just a natural evolvement of saying reset didn't always create a situation of safety. So what can I do? Now, the main reason why I developed any system or steps around reset was because I was noticing myself. I was not being able to stay calm and in a space of constantly seeing the kid in a good light because I was getting out of control. I was like, how can I control myself? What am I supposed to be doing? I don't know. So I just began to think like, how can I have a reset that is just a reset that is beautiful? And I'm able to keep control of myself to ensure that I'm sticking with stands 1 and stands 2, not energizing the negative and energizing the positive. Yeah.
And the negativity comes up when we feel, again, with clarity, when we feel powerless, when we feel like we don't know how to control ourselves and what to do. That lack of clarity, that confusion makes us doubt ourselves and then makes us resent the kids, and all of that energy comes up, and that's all a whole lot of negativity right there. It's almost like the more clear we are, like when we're clear, we can get through anything. I feel like, and it could have good energy. I always say this example that I had about if you would see someone, in a park or public place, taking their child and sitting them down on a bench and tying them up with a rope and making the knot so strong, not tight to hurt the child, but the knot so strong that the child could not escape no matter what they did, like testing it even to make sure that the child could not slip out, we would all be very concerned. And chances are we would call social services or somebody, because this is not okay. This child is being restrained in such a not humane way. That's not okay. And yet, I want to say 100% of parents, but I don't know if that's internationally, but probably in the United States, I hope 100% of parents, or 99.999% of parents, are physically restraining their child in a way that they cannot slip out in the car countless times a day, and we don't think about it because there's so much clarity that this is what the kid needs. There's so much clarity that we will never, ever allow our child to be in a position where their life's at risk, that we will fight with a screaming, biting, scratching toddler to strap them in so they can't get out because it's for their safety. So our confidence, there might be negativity around their behavior, like stop scratching me, right? But the clarity that like you are going to be buckled in and I'm not driving unless you are, is something that motivates us to stick it through and to trust our kids about it. And we don't worry about, am I traumatizing my kid? It's like, we don't even think about it. And yet it would be abusive in a different context. So when there's clarity of like, this is what's going to happen. Like you say, I always hear this about, you trust your kids to listen. Like, that's what's going to happen. You're all going to listen. Like, at the end of the day, this is going to be a functional after school program. There's no other option. Like, you're so clear on that. And you're not going to compromise on that. And that clarity comes through. And it has nothing to do with negativity. It's just clarity. And so you're just going through the motions and there's no negativity. And this is what's going to happen. And we're going to get through it. And those steps just help you go, like, have the clarity throughout so that you just are doing the steps. There's no energetic upside down relationship around it. It's just going through the steps. So yeah, tell us.
Okay. So it's 4 simple steps generally that I'll do. And this is specifically in a classroom or group setting where a child is in emotional or physical safety. And it could be very, generally I'll say our after school program rules. The rules are the basic, just to keep the kids basically safe. So the rules are basically following directions. They're basic classroom or group style rules, following directions, listening, to the adults' directions. We have in our after school program a no touching rule unless it's in the context of a game. I used to say hands to myself, but the Nurtured Heart said, be very, 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 very clear. And no touching has been working amazing. And that is absolutely, when I implemented that rule, that changed everything. Kids were, before tackling each other to the ground, kids were really getting hurt. And that rule has been a real blessing. Listen quickly, please talk nicely. No, please talk nicely. Talking nicely. And that's for the emotional safety of children, because children don't get hurt, of course, only with another child hurting them physically, but it's emotionally as well. So we talk nicely to each other. And the last rule is a teacher watching, just being sure. I tell the children it's their responsibility to make sure that they always keep their bodies in a place where they know an adult can see them and watch them, because that's for their safety. So let's say a kid breaks one of these rules and, the kids are involved in some activity, they're painting, and one kid keeps poking another kid. What I will say is reset, exactly like Nurtured Heart. So if the kid's name is Jack, I'll say Jack. Sometimes I'll say hold on, or oops, Jack, oops, reset, or Jack, hold on, reset. If the kid looks confused or whatever, I'm happy to say the rule again, oops, reset, no touching. And then the second, generally just calling a kid's name distracts them, diverts their attention, and immediately, wow, I noticed you're following. I just called your name and immediately you're following the no touching rule. I might not even have to say reset. I might not even just calling the kid's name. Oh, I noticed I called your name and you immediately stopped touching Henry. Amazing. You're a great rule follower. Thank you, Jack. Just like that. So that's usually done. That generally takes care of probably 90% of any issues that ever come up. However, there are those intense children, and this is specifically for the intense children, that all of a sudden that's not, whether it's not within their capabilities, or they need more intense relationship, or more intense structure around understanding what the rule is. So they'll, a minute later, or they might not listen in the moment, keep poking. So at that point, my understanding is the setting where the child is in is not conducive for the child to follow the rules. So I'll call the child to me wherever I come here a second. Or I'll go to the child, but I'll get kind of in the child's space, in the child's body bubble, either by them coming to me, or I'll go to the child and I'll say, again, hold on. The word I use for it's first reset and then repeat. I'll just say, hold on. The rule is that we are not touching our friends. Can you please repeat the rule back to me? And the expectation is they repeat the rule back. And again, that takes care of the next 5%. Like it's, the next step that I would do is reset, repeat, sideline. If a child is just, and I want to preface this with just an example. If candy is really bad for me, and I have candy in my cabinet, every time I go past that cabinet, it's a battle. Maybe I'll have the candy and maybe I won't. More often than not, I will have the candy. If I cannot have the candy, I'm not allowed to have the candy. The best thing I can do for myself is to remove the candy from the cabinet, not even be around it. Sometimes it's just unfair to expect a child who is escalated, upset, very edgy, needing something that is going to break the rule. The environment where they are at that very moment is just going to be unfair to them to help them follow whatever the rules are. And that's when I would sideline, I call it. Let's come to the sidelines. Let's take a minute. It's not a timeout and it's not a punishment. It's for the child's. It's giving the child the scaffolding, the tools, the space that they need to reset, to get back to their greatness. A lot of times it's just sitting between 1 to 5 minutes in another space, whether it's near me, whether it's just, another area, just giving them a fidget, giving them, we talk about breathing in our program, encouraging them to do some breathing, some jumping jacks, like talking them through if necessary. It's like the rule over there is that we can't touch, but it's hard. What can we do so that when you go back to rejoin, you're able to be following the rules? And sometimes it is walking through a child. They're not in reset. Like I'm absolutely available to be there to talk to see what I can do to help them, to scaffold them, to provide the skills they need to either rejoin, or maybe we find a different activity. How about, that activity is not working. It looks like, Henry is really getting you very upset, and you're reacting with your hands. Let's go to the painting area. Let's go do some painting with whatever. So it's really working out just how we can get the child into a successful situation.
Can I say two things about
Yeah.
sideline? That like how this can work aligned with nurtured heart, or why I believe that this works for you and your program is when you just said, I'm completely available. When they come to the sideline, think about it. They're no longer breaking the rule. And not only that, they followed instruction. They are now listening to instructions that may be very hard. They're having a good old time with their buddy poking them. They're getting a great reaction out of their friends. They're having so much energy, way more than they care about your energy. They have their friends' energy. That's way cool. And you told them that they have to stop, and now you're telling them to move, and they moved. So like they're actually in greatness, right? So of course I'm available to be with them, first of all. So that's one piece of this where it's like it's aligned. I'm not giving you a relationship for not listening. I'm giving you a relationship for listening. You're in a situation where you weren't being successful, and rightfully so. It's hard sometimes. And now you are. Now you're here, you're taking care of your body, etc. And the second piece of that, which maybe is the first piece and is maybe more important or the same important, or it's all important, is what you said in the first half of this recording. For those of you that haven't heard the first half, go back and listen. Where Devorah was talking about how she bombards these kids with all that's going right. The emotional nutrition they're getting out of that relationship all the time, the knowledge that they have of that and the faith that they have in that they're seen as valuable citizens who contribute to the program, who are wanted, who are believed in, that when they do things that are wrong, like it just flies off the back of everybody. It's like, it's just not a bit like they're allowed to be imperfect. They're allowed to be human. That environment that you've built, that culture that you've built is amped up to such a level that being called over to repeat the rule or to go be in sideline, it's energetically boring compared. It's the opposite of all the other ways, or of the ways we parented before nurtured heart or taught before nurtured heart, where it's actually energetically boring compared to being in the game. And we talk about video game a lot. It's one of the theories that we use in nurtured heart to kind of relay the approach that in a video game, kids want to be successful. What is it about the video game? And it's that it's clear and predictable and right side up. The video game celebrates what you do right, and it honestly couldn't care less if you get out. There's consequences. It goes through them, and it welcomes you back wholeheartedly. And so that's kind of the cycle of nurtured heart. And so what I hear you saying about the sideline, it's energetically congruent because of these two aspects. And that's what's, I don't know, so incredible about your wisdom and about your ability to apply nurtured heart, like creatively and independently with your own program in mind, and stay within the essence of what we're doing. So you have a fourth step. So we have reset, and then within reset energy, we have repeat, sideline, and then go ahead.
I'll get back to it. I'll get back to the fourth step, but I do want to say, I want to just repeat again what you said, which was exactly it. And every step of the way, the child is being recognized for what is going right. So when a child repeats, it's like, thank you for showing me that you know the rule. I see you know it clearly now that you said it to me. Or even, thank you for, Jack, I called you to come over to me, and you got up immediately and you came over to me. There's constant recognitions for what they're doing right. With the sideline, thank you for stepping away. As soon as I asked you to step away, thank you for stepping away. Thank you for coming to sit down. Thank you for relaxing your body. I'm noticing you're relaxing. Constant recognition and relationship. So it's not like, this is not even, these steps are not really even the child is reset when you're turning your energy away. They're not. They're steps to getting the child to reset, but they're in the game steps.
Yeah. It's the proper way according to the game to reset, right? We all have to reset sometimes. This is how you reset in our game. That's aligned with our rules and values, and we appreciate that you're going about it the way that's safe and appropriate.
So then the fourth step is I call it skills. And the kid did their sideline. They were sitting on the side. They had that time. They had that space. to recompose themselves, to resettle themselves, to reset themselves. And they go back and they continue poking another kid or saying something hurtful to another child. I'll say, Jack, come here a second, let's do some skills. And that's when I just simply give them a piece of paper and a pencil, and I say, what's happening? This I haven't, I haven't even spoken this through with you, so I hope it's in line with the jar, but I'll say what's going wrong and what can I do in the future? And it's amazing to see that it's not something punitive. It's almost like journaling, and I want to elaborate more on that. But all of the children that are in our program, I've never had a problem. They'll sit down. It's never done like, hey, you get over here, go sit down. Like none of that. It's come, Jack. I want to do some skills. Please sit down. Here's a pen and a paper. Please write what went wrong and what will you do in the future, and let me know when you're ready. And I'm in the vicinity, but I'm not sitting over them. There have been times that a child is like, this is stupid, and will rip the paper up. And I'll say, oops, let's try it again. As soon as you're ready, as much time as you need. And sometimes also, in addition to that, I'll say, thank you very much for writing it. I see that you clearly and knowledgeably identified what was going wrong. And I see you have a good plan for the future. And let's just take a minute to write an apology note to Henry. Because a lot of times there is that restitution element where the child, physically hurt or emotionally hurt another child. And if that's the case, or even with a teacher, if I know as director, if I see that they spoke disrespectfully to a teacher, I'll say, okay, let's write a quick apology note to the teacher, just write dear or whatever, and write, and they do it. It's amazing. It's amazing to see the children do it. No problem. When I think about these 4 steps to resetting, I'm a big believer that children shouldn't be a child's experience during their childhood years should give them the tools for life. We as educators should be preparing children for the real world. And we as adults are constantly having to reset ourselves when we have a run-in with a coworker, or we had a hard day at work, or we didn't get sleep the night before, or we're struggling in any way. We are constantly having to reset ourselves. And when we can successfully reset ourselves, we are setting ourselves up for happiness and success in life. And when I think through these 4 steps, I think through myself. I'm in the kitchen and I'm serving dinner to my children, and it's very, very noisy, and I'm getting escalated. First thing I do for myself, and I do it just quickly, is I try to reset myself just in the moment. I'm giving the dinner, but I'm not getting escalated or responding the wrong way, no matter if the kids are screaming or crying or poking each other or whatever it is. My response is always a reset response. I'm constantly resetting myself to make sure that the way I'm communicating, what I'm giving forth, is in line with how I would like to be, in a positive and nurturing way. If that gets too much for myself, a lot of times I will start to self-talk. That's like repeat. I'll be like, okay, it's dinner's not going to be for a half hour. I'm going to tell that, I'm going to put this child, I'm going to move this child from this seat to this seat. I'm going to give this one child dinner first. I'm going to make it clear, I'm going to, whatever self-talk I'm doing. Sometimes it's self-talk saying what I'm going to actually practically do, or just self-talk and keeping myself calm. I'm doing self-talk. I'm repeating things to myself, my own rules for myself. If that's too much, I'm going to sideline myself. I'm not going to hit. I'm not going to raise my voice. I'm not going to say something, belittle or shame or say something hurtful to the children that will destroy their sense of self just because I'm escalated in the situation. And I'll say, Mommy's going to take a break. Might be a bathroom break. It might be a bedroom break, but I'm going to remove myself from the situation. Everyone will be fine, but I'm going to, I'm going to, take a moment away. And if that doesn't work, or, that generally works, but at some point I might also journal at the end of the day. I pull out a journal and just write down my thoughts, write down clarities, write down plans, write down journal. So when I think of these 4 steps, I think they're very practical tools that I know for myself I do every day, and great tools to use in life to maintain a composed, calm, happy, positive, reset way of being.
Wow, this is so practical. And that is like your greatest superpower. I mean, you have so many superpowers, Devorah, but wow, this is so practical and amazing. And Um, I'm excited for people to hear it. And I want to stress again that, like, the clarity of a child who is getting reset a lot is for me to go back and say, why are these 4 steps not working? Why are they getting reset again? And to again come back to the energy and be like, are they getting their relationship through being reset? Have they not yet learned that being in greatness is their superpower, and being in greatness is received and welcomed and appreciated and valued about them, and that they don't have to act out to get their needs for relationship met? Have they not yet learned the skills, or do they not have an environment that is well enough adjusted to their needs and their circumstances and their, whatever's going on for them, so that they can live out in their greatness? Because where we want to be is living out in greatness. It's all that reflection, what you're saying, that journaling, that sidelining ourselves to come back to, wait a second, I'm resetting too much. Like, what's happening here? To always ask myself, am I setting the stage? Am I being clear enough? Am I showing up for the right things? Where is my energy? Is there negativity in me when I'm going through these 4 stages? Or am I really just again setting the stage for success and helping these kids be successful? And where's my energy flowing? So the work is, like you said earlier, all on me. How am I controlling myself? What's my plan of action? Where am I gonna go? And giving that clarity to the kids. Hey guys, I'm letting you know, this is what I'm going to be doing. This is what you could expect. When this happens, that happens. When that happens, the other happens. And this is so practical for, like you said, an after school program or a school program where there are rules and there does need to be a semblance of control. Or, like you said, it's not an emotional safe situation. Do kids need to be, or should kids be controlled? That's a big question. The answer as individuals, no. But are there circumstances where there needs to be control? Yes. We don't live in a jungle. There are rules, there are laws. And yeah, we can go to town talking about, the politics of that, and if it should or shouldn't exist. The way that we operate right now, in the school system we have right now, in the culture of the civilized world that we live in, there are rules, there are laws, there are consequences. There's something called respect, personal boundaries. We need to be able to learn to use our intensity. And these kids that are intense, that are the ones that are breaking all the rules, these are the very kids that are strong enough. Like, they'll use their intensity to be the best kids. Like, if they want to, and if they realize that that's the way to go, and if they get it, they have that propulsion from inside, that intensity to not, it's like they're either the best worst kid or they could be the best kid. They really could, and they really will. And we're giving them that clarity by setting this thing up right side up. So I just love how deeply you've gone into getting the foundation so well in place that you could bring in your setting them up for successness to such a level of clarity where you can stay in regulation, like you said. They can, come back to regulation, and we can always just have the focus be on their greatness and the greatness of the program and the emotional and physical safety and well-being of everyone.
So in addition to working with the children, I am also director. So a lot of times I am relying on staff to be the ones nurturing the children. And we always have our nurtured heart training, and it's part and parcel of our program. However, the way this came about, these steps to helping not control a child, to help the teacher keep control of herself, and help invite a child to take control at any point of how they want to show up, was we took the children on a field trip, and I was not able to go on that field trip. And one of the teachers came back and she said, this one kid just kept shoving and poking and just really being hurtful to the child that they were near. And they were on the road. It was a 20-minute drive. There was nothing that could be done. She said the child was just insulting verbally and physically aggressive towards another child. And I remember I just was like, she shared this with me, and I was just like, I just felt so upset. It's like, if I was there, the children, at the end of the day, directors are relying on their teachers, and there are different teachers, different skills, different abilities, different levels of experience. And I can't expect the teachers to be, if I was there, probably this would not have happened, but I wasn't. And there has to be, like, what do I do? And I wasn't even there. And then I noticed that I was very upset. I was very, very, very upset that generally I was there, and this one time, and I can't always be there. And as our program grows, that's the goal, that, the teacher should be empowered, and the children should know the rules of the video game, and they should have their own resources to maintain control and for themselves. And that's when, I sat down and thought, and I came up with these 4 steps. And then what was amazing is we had an identical repeat situation of this situation. I was on a trip, and the child again, and it was a week later, and the teacher came back and she said, it happened again. And I said, oh, okay, well, hearing the story, the child is up to skills. And I was completely calm. The child is an amazing child. The child is awesome. Let's work on some skills. Call the child over. He sat down. He wrote what went wrong. He was on target. He wrote it very honestly. He said, I was poking my friend and I was saying hurtful things. In the future, I will not, and I will listen to the teacher when she tells me not to. And he wrote an apology to his friend. And it was a beautiful experience. And since then, the children, I never presented this routine to the children. We just started to implement it. It was just repeat, and I would just say, oh, reset, repeat, stop. We just started to implement it, and we did it specifically in that order, not kind of like picking and choosing. Sometimes you do have to pick and choose depending on the situation, but for the most part, going through that cycle becomes just an automatic video game where the child could recompose or catch themselves or step in with their own sense of authority and control at any given point to reset themselves. So it's completely within the child's control. It's just a video game that's happening. And at every moment, the teacher is calm, because the teacher doesn't. Sometimes situations will send the teacher out of their front brain thinking or whichever brain thinking, to the not great brain thinking, the teacher is escalated. And here, when there's situations that can potentially really escalate a teacher doesn't have to think. Just falls into the video game and just goes along with the steps of the video game. And the steps are ones that are there just to nurture the child and help the child step in with strength and with their own sense of control and greatness.
Devorah, one day when you are a world-renowned director and teacher trainer and have books on these 4 steps and are presenting curriculums of this everywhere, I will say that I had you on my podcast.
I think what's amazing is actually the nurtured heart approach. That's the foundation that makes these steps just something beautiful for the children, and not just regular punitive or controlling discipline.
So true. You're right. So if people want to reach you, is there a way? And what should they expect?
Sure. So my email is my name, Devorah, at chabadpaloalto.com.
Easy enough. I will put it in the show notes. Thank you all for being here. Thank you again, Devorah. And I will see you next time.
Thank you, Mussi. Thank you for having me. There's so much more I can say about Nurtured Heart, how it transformed my relationship with every single person, not only the children in my lives, from the oldest to the youngest, and the way I relate to myself. And there's just absolutely so many more hours that I can talk. But this was a little bit of it. And really, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.